Joining me now for another special interview edition of Everything College Basketball is Mike Morrell, head coach of the NCAA tournament-bound UNC Asheville Bulldogs. Mike, thanks for the time today. How are we doing?
Doing good. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. You guys are one of the first teams to punch your ticket to the big dance over the weekend, and obviously you still don't find out who your matchup is until Sunday. So how do you guys kind of handle this week preparation-wise? Is it more just keeping guys sharp? Are you able to do anything like a little bit team specific or?
Yeah, we fortunately were on spring break, so we gave the guys 3 days off. They got back yesterday, and we're just like always, I think sometimes you can worry too much about what the other team's doing or whatever. Obviously, we don't have another team right now in terms of playing, but we really try to focus on ourselves. Things that we can get better at. And yesterday was a lighter day with just a lot of shots, which obviously is going to be really important if you're going to try to win a game in March. And so today we'll get up and down the floor a little bit, and these guys really love to compete and play, so they'd rather do that than anything anyway. So it's kind of what these few days look like before you find out who you're playing, when you're playing, and where you're playing.
I'm glad you mentioned the shooting because that's actually something I wanted to touch on. As I kind of dug into the stats on you guys and all that good stuff, you're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country as far as percentage. You guys shoot 38.8%, but you're not way up there as far as your amount of three-point attempts. So it's pretty clear that like shooting or shot selection is part of that success. Is that something you guys really coach, or is it just something, you've been lucky enough to have mature guys who already have that sort of built in?
It's a little bit of both, quite frankly. I mean, our three best, 3-point shooters are Tajon Jones, Fletcher Abey, and Drew Pember. They're probably our three most cerebral players in terms of understanding what good basketball looks like. I actually wish that all three of those guys would take a few more. But I try not to coach guys who understand what a good shot and what a bad shot is too much when they're already pretty much doing their job. And those are guys, they don't like to feel rushed. They like to feel like it's a shot that they like. And like I tell them, hey, if y'all like it, I like it. Those are our three best shooters in terms of quantity and percentage. Alex Caldwell's a really good shooter as well. And the thing all those guys have in common is they've all been in college for at least 4 years. So, yeah, I mean, we coach it. I can't sit here and take a ton of credit. Honestly, it's more of just their maturity in terms of them understanding what a good shot is.
You mentioned Drew. Obviously, I think everybody, he's been kind of the focal point of the coverage this season. He won Big South Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. Can you just talk a little bit about what it's been like being around him and maybe how that 2-year stretch at Tennessee before he transferred has helped his development?
Well, I mean, it started before Tennessee, frankly. He played for a very, very good high school coach. He went to Tennessee, obviously played for a very, very good coach there, and Coach Barnes and that staff. And while he didn't play a ton, he grew as a player. And we benefited from him being in two really good programs before he got here. Um, and so, we just tried to help him, grow in the areas that we felt like he needed to grow in that were pretty specific to our program. Obviously Drew is a guy who has a ton of skill. But the number one attribute about Drew Pember that doesn't get written about is who he is. That's his number one attribute. I'm telling you, guys love playing with him. He doesn't act like he's the best player. You would never know it, actually. He really prefers just to be one of the guys. And so because of that, I think it's probably the single biggest reason our team has been able to respond in times when maybe other good teams wouldn't. And just because Drew is such a good dude that these guys on his team just enjoy playing with him. I mean, he leads the country in free throw attempts and makes. You don't do that without your teammates understanding where you need the ball. And so I think all that goes into both who he is as a player and as a person.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I sort of wanted to ask about that aspect of it too. At this level of college basketball, you're not necessarily going to have the top high level recruits. So, how much of an impact of having guys like Drew and just having a really strong team culture, like how much of an impact has that had on y'all's success?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, it's the number one thing. There's literally nothing more important than that, and I think that's where we talk about it all the time. If it's not what winning looks like, it's what losing looks like. There's no gray area with that. And so that's a credit to these guys and their ability to connect with each other, both in the good times and in the tougher times. And so we try to, one thing we try to do here is never really use the word bad. We just, we always see whatever occurs to us as an opportunity to grow, whether it be good or, bad, if you will. It's just an opportunity to grow. And, we won 27 games this year. And, before every game, we always talk to the guys about not accepting in winning what you wouldn't accept in losing. And so I think that speaks to, our leadership on our team with Drew and Tajon and Fletcher and Trent Stephanie and Doc Battle, who have been with us for 4 years. And so the culture is never perfect. It's never something you're gonna just hit a home run with every day, but it's what's gonna help you in those times that you need to respond the most.
Well, and sort of pivoting off that, you guys started out when you took over 4 wins in your first season. Now you mentioned it, 27-7 record this year, 16-2 in conference. Kind of two-parter here. Does it make the success a little bit sweeter knowing how far this program's come since you arrived? And second of all, you just mentioned, the culture and all that. How much does the approach change from the time when you're stepping in and having to rebuild versus now having some success and having to capitalize off of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably does make it a little sweeter, just knowing the adversity that we had to go through to get here. And when I say adversity, I mean, just the losses that we took, some of the unfortunate things that happened over the course of 4 years where, you don't always get what you want. And then again, you have to respond. And yeah, so it probably did make it a little bit sweeter. What another thing that's really made it, very, very special for me is that I've gotten a chance to do it with Tajon the whole time, and he's gotten, I got to see him as a redshirt freshman when, playing his first game. And now he's the all-time leading scorer here, and he's leaving with 2 Big South championships. And so, yeah, I mean, capitalize on it. I mean, we're going to try, but I think sometimes that can bring anxiety as well, man. And so, what we're going to do is just try to have a really, really good day today. And then tomorrow we're going to try to do the same. And if we can do that, then the capitalization on the success it'll occur on its own.
You mentioned having him with you for all 4 years, but you're sort of one of the younger coaches in the country. And I heard Shaka talk about this, Shaka Smart, excuse me, you were on his staff, but how has being younger kind of helped you relate to these guys and build those relationships? And how important is that now that, with the transfer portal, it's going to be a lot tougher to hang on to some of these guys for 4 years?
I have a young staff. They're just as important to that as I am. I just try to give them the plan. I think it helps. I just think, and I learned this from Coach Smart, as you said, is just like, it's not like we invented the wheel here, man. Like it starts with relationships. That's it. I mean, hey, I want to spend time with these guys. I want to build a relationship where they know that we care about them more just than if the ball's going in the basket or not. I want them to know that they're going to be held accountable to what the standard is, whether it's on or off the floor. And I want them to know that we understand they're not going to be perfect. But growth is going to need to occur either way. So, yeah, I mean, I I got to experience that with Coach Smart, and watch him lead a program in a way that, I don't do everything the same that he does, but I do rely on my experiences with him as much as any that I have.
Oh man, you've been kind of leading me right into my next questions here because I did want to jump back into your background a little bit, just real quick. What would you say your biggest takeaway from Shaka is? You spent 7 seasons with him, made the transition from VCU to Texas. So what have you really like main thing that you've took away?
Yeah, that's probably the thing that people like ask me the most about Coach Smart, and that's a really hard question to answer because it's like, what day of the week is it? What season of the year is it? Because um, I could write a book on all the things that I learned from Coach. Now it was up to me and how I wanted to apply those. I worked at 3 schools with Coach Smart, at Clemson, at VCU, at Texas. I was a director of basketball operations for him. I was an assistant coach for him. I was really a GA for him when we were the only two guys there late at night, and I'm pinning pictures up on his wall of recruits that he was the primary recruiter for. And so yeah, I mean, if I had to pinpoint anything, I think the thing that I always just really admired about Coach Smart is that whether it was a coach or a player, I just always felt like he had this innate ability to like pour belief into guys, to players who maybe at the time, one maybe didn't even deserve it, in terms of like what they had done up until that point on the court, or he just knew that they needed it. And when I say deserve, I mean maybe a guy who hadn't played any, and coach is like, you're gonna be this unbelievable player. And quite frankly, watching him coach Troy Daniels at VCU, I really tried to mimic that here with Tajon Jones. His freshman year, he shot 27% from three, and I just remember telling him like all to tell you're the best shooter in the Big South. You're the best shooter in the Big South. He wasn't at the time, but man, he became that, and he's been that the last few years. And so, just watching Coach Smart in those areas has really helped me. Just one, like, just these guys need confidence. They need belief, and don't be captain obvious. Like, yeah, okay, I know that guy needs to get better, on defense. I know he needs to guard the ball more, sit in a stance more, but that's not truly coaching, in my opinion. To me, coaching is inspiring and trying to pour belief into these guys when they need it the most, or when maybe they don't have that particular belief. And it's really helped me with Drew Pember too. I mean, he came here, he scored 31 points in his career when he got here. And again, that's not the reason he is who he is, but that's the approach that we try to take.
Well, last question before I get you out of here, Coach, because I know that you do have limited time this week. I just want to jump back real quick to talking about your tournament kind of matchup and Drew Pember just a little bit here. But how much of an advantage is it in a tournament environment having a guy like Pember who you can really lean on when you don't necessarily have that, extended prep time to make a game plan for a team?
Uh, yeah, I mean, listen, man, whether it's a tournament or whether it's a week prep for one team, if you got Drew Pember on your team, you got an advantage. So, I mean, I'm thankful for that. He definitely makes you a better coach. In a tournament setting, yeah, I think it helps. In terms of those days where you don't really get any prep, like we just went through in a Big South tournament. And I think he's just a very unique player. So I think whether you've got 12 hours or whether you got 12 days, he's going to be a challenge, and it's a credit to him.
Well, you guys definitely had some battles in the Big South tournament that should hopefully prepare you for this March run. But again, Coach, thank you for the time. We'll be keeping an eye out for the Bulldogs once the tournament gets going.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on.